Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the regular meeting of the Newham Economic Development Authority, Tuesday, August 19th, 2014, at 7:30 a.m. Please note that we do have a quorum. The first item of business will be the approval of the minutes from our regular meeting held on July 8th of this year. What's your wishes?
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular EDA meeting held on July 8th.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded approving the minutes from the regular EDA meeting held on July 8th, 2014. Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. The first item of business now for today's is the administrative activities. Heather?
All right, good morning. We'll start first with the Section 8 report. Note we had 98 vouchers on the program for the month of July. Housing assistance payments, disbursements from HUD exceeded payments to landlords by $2,378 for the month. Monthly administrative fee disbursements exceeded expenses by $243 for July. Note on pages 3 and 4 of your report the unaudited balances as of July 31st. And note that we have 102 vouchers on the program as of August 1st with a waiting list of 89. If you remember a couple months ago, I had mentioned that we had submitted an application to HUD for some set-aside funding under the Category 2B portability. That was back in March. Just recently found out that HUD approved our application and we were awarded an additional just over $2,100 in funding for the 2014 calendar year. What that is last year we had a few people port out to higher cost areas. We were being billed,
Okay.
so we were paying more than we would if they were in Brown County, so they're giving us a little supplemental funding to offset those costs. If
Yep.
that's available again next year, I'll apply because we have the same situation this year where
Oh,
we're
okay.
on some ports.
In looking at the unaudited balances, feeling comfortable with them?
Well, we have a little bit in reserves. HUD doesn't want us to have a
Have,
large
yeah.
reserves, so they've kind of underfunded us to make us
Right.
spend those, and it is what it is.
'Cause we've really been under attack, what, about 3 years now? Something like that?
Yeah, we had a pretty large reserve, so
Pretty good,
we've
yeah.
spent that down now, and thank you. We, keep an eye on those numbers and issue vouchers when we feel we're able to,
Okay. Okay, thank you.
but we do have to keep a close eye on it because
Oh,
we
yes, very much so.
we don't want to go over. If there's no other questions, we'll
Anybody
move
have
on.
any other questions regarding Section 8?
Okay, moving on to public housing then, note the monthly and year-to-date program activity. July 1st started our fiscal year, so starting with a new month, or the first month of the new fiscal year. So far, revenues have exceeded expenditures by just over $5,300. Note the cash assets summary. Broadway House is fully leased with 29 on the waiting list, and the family units are fully leased with 27 on the waiting list. Laraway Roofing did come over and inspect the Broadway House roof. They had installed the roof for us, so they came to take a look at it. We've had a few leaks and a few repairs, so just wondering what the usable life was on the roof. They recommended that if we start a preventative maintenance program, have them come out and look every spring and fall and make any needed repairs, we can probably get another 3 to 7 years out of the existing roof before we look at replacement.
When did they replace it?
It was I think they started in 96 and finished it early 97.
Okay,
So in 2017, we'll hit 20 years.
20 years, yeah, okay,
Which is about typical for a membrane roof.
okay.
So they did notice a couple areas of flashing that they thought should be taken care of. They didn't feel it was urgent that it needed to be done before winter, but definitely by next spring. So I will go ahead and talk to them about making those repairs and then have them come out and look at it again next year.
Do you think it'd be wise to wait until spring? in case we have a bad winter?
If they have time to do it before winter,
Okay.
I'll tell them to go ahead. I don't know how busy they are, but
It
I
might
will
be
talk to 'em
prudent, might
about
be
it.
less expensive as well.
I want to say it was about $1,000 in repairs they were
Okay,
recommending, so go ahead and get that done.
sure.
Moving on then to the EDA fund on page 10 of your report, note the revenue and expenditure status. Current cash assets of $438,727. The spec house at 632 Fender Drive is very near completion. Flooring is going in right now. Then it's a matter of coming in and finishing, putting in the cabinets and the plumbing fixtures and a couple other finishing touches, and then that one will be done. The house at 612 Fender Drive got started about a month later, but it is progressing nicely and should be completed by late September. So by the next meeting, I should.
Yeah, driving by Saturday, it looked
Right.
like, like I said, I like the color of the 612,
Yeah, they're
the
coming
632,
along.
yeah. Yes.
I did recently mail out bids for realtors. Our contract with Century 21 is coming up, I believe, September 12th. So that'll be on the September agenda to approve a new one-year contract.
Any questions?
Just one on the waiting list. When you look back in February, January for the two, we had a low number of people on the waiting list, and then all of a sudden it jumped and built through May, and then decreased quite a bit again. Is that seasonal, or I just am curious why such a big change in the numbers?
We were getting a lot of out-of-area applications from homeless shelters in the metro area, and so our waiting list jumped.
Okay.
Twice a year, we do a waiting list update, and one was done in May.
And that's the decrease?
And if they don't respond in 10 days to our letter to let us know if they want to remain on the waiting list, their file is closed.
Okay.
So that cleaned up a lot of those
Okay.
out-of-area applications. Either they move and they don't let us know their new address, so the letter doesn't get there, or they just fail to respond. Hopefully that means they've found housing elsewhere and just never notified us that they didn't need to be on our list anymore.
Thank you.
Moving on then to the property rehab loan program, available funds of just over $306,000. There's been no new activity. And the rental property fund on page 12 of your report, notice the cash assets of $60,800. And then moving on to Garden Terrace Apartments. Garden Terrace currently has 85 units leased with 55 on the waiting list. Currently has 3 vacancies. They just had 3 turnovers, so they're working on rehabbing those units. I think she's got one released as soon as it was ready. She was going to have someone moving in, last I heard. I don't know about the other 2. And she's got 3 move-out notices pending for September. And I believe all 3 of those are moving up to the new apartments on Highland Avenue.
Okay. When they get the new electrical box installed.
So,
Anyone have any questions, comments by either the finance director or the city manager regarding the report from Heather? None. A motion would be in order to accept the activities.
I'd make a motion accepting the Economic Development Authority Administrative Activities Report for the month of July.
A second.
Second.
It's been moved and second accepting the Economic Development Authority Administrative Activities for the month of July 2014. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Item 4A, consider awarding bids for the public housing deck replacement project. Heather?
okay. The board approved plans and specifications for the public housing deck replacement project at the July meeting. We asked contractors to provide quotes for 3 types of building materials, and then also for the cost of replacing either 1 or 2 decks. Bids came in They were the same whether we do one or two. They gave me the exact same price per deck. The difference is, as you can see in the materials, the treated wood would be the most affordable option. And they're giving me an estimated usable life of 20 years on that material. There's an economy grade composite material with an estimated usable life of 30 years and a premium composite material with an estimated usable life of 40 years. We've got 2 family units that have decks. The current material is treated wood, and the existing decks are over 30 years old and have deteriorated and are in need of replacement. Treated wood is the most economical choice and the most practical in terms of repair. Being they are rental houses and they may get some damage, it's a lot easier to go in and repair a couple boards. Especially, they said, with the economy composite, trying to match that, 5-10 years down the road, if you have to do a repair, you might not be able to get the same exact material. So repair might be more difficult. The lumber suppliers also just kind of were leaning toward treated wood, being they are rental houses. But the 3 options are presented to you to decide what you think is best. And also, I need to know whether you want to do 1 deck or 2.
Okay. And if you notice that the existing decks are 30 years old and they were treated wood, and so the estimated usable life is 20 years, maybe we get another 30.
It's possible.
We don't know, sure.
Do we put any type of sealer or anything on the finished decks periodically, or do you just,
It's treated lumber, and we didn't on the original decks, and they did last 30 years. With one part-time maintenance person taking care of, all of our rental properties, it's something he could do if we wanted him to spend the time, but, that's constant upkeep once you start,
I know. That's what I was asking, I guess.
so.
Any comments or suggestions, or who, what, when, where, and how?
You said doing 1 or 2. Are both decks in similar shape repair-wise?
When I did the walkthrough with the staff from the building inspector's office, one, he definitely said we should repair this year. The other, he thought we could wait a couple years. If we wait, the cost is only going to go up. If we do them both, they're done. We're good for another, I don't know if any of us will be here next time they need to be replaced, but
Oh, really? Come on.
might be. Might
God, I
be.
hope not.
30 years.
If we did 2 of them with Bustler, be $8,000 versus 4, rounding it up just a bit. Do we have the money available without putting
We do.
stressing us?
Yeah, I've been using the 2013 Capital Fund grant
Oh, okay.
on the projects we've done this year. I've got the entire 2014 grant available, and that was $57,000.
Yes,
So.
right.
So the money's there. It's up to you.
I think we should do both
I
at the
agree.
present time.
Yeah. With Bustler?
With the treated wood.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make that motion that we do both decks using Bustler.
A second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved in second, awarding bids for the bids for the public housing deck replacement project to Bustler and Son Construction, the amount of $3,994 each for the 2 of them. Any discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The motion is carried. Item 4B, consider awarding the bids for the Green Physical Needs Assessment. Heather?
Okay. We've talked about this before. This is a new regulation that the Department of Housing and Urban Development has come out with, requiring housing authorities to complete a green physical needs assessment every 5 years. We've always had to do a physical needs assessment every 5 years, and we've always had to do an energy audit. Well, I shouldn't say always, but for many years now, every 5 years. Ours have not been on the same schedule, but this is combining the two, and they'll be on the same 5-year cycle. So once we have the GPNA done, we're good for 5 years. And what we've done is to try and get the cost down, because it is an expensive undertaking. 13 housing authorities in southwest Minnesota joined together to solicit the bids as a group. This did result in a significant cost savings for each agency compared to going it alone and getting individual proposals. Proposals were solicited from 18 vendors, and 6 proposals were received. Now, these weren't sealed bids. These were requests for proposals, similar to what you do with an architect, and I think maybe we do that with our auditors as well. And we don't only look at cost, we look at the experience of the vendor and, what kind of a job they can do for us. So when the bids came in, we had a conference call and basically knocked out the 2 top bids, which were both architect firms, and the cost was significantly higher on those 2. And then they also knocked out the low bid, I guess by default, so narrowed it down to 3. Although cost was a large factor, like I say, it wasn't the only consideration. We looked at professional competence and experience, past performance, knowledge of energy efficiency practices. The majority voted to go with Ameresco. They have a proven track record, excellent reputation in the housing industry. And it was the majority opinion that Ameresco would provide the most comprehensive finished project to each agency for the price. We had budgeted in New Ulm $25,000 for this project of capital fund money. The Ameresco proposal is well below the budgeted amount, mainly due to bidding this as a group. I did ask Ameresco what the cost would have been to us if we had
Gone alone?
bid individually, and it was about $24,500. So significant reduction in cost by doing this as a group, where they can come and do a whole region at one time. I know it's not the lowest bid, but we did agree when we went in as a group that we were going to go with who the majority chose. So that's the proposal I'm bringing to you for consideration. If we choose to reject the bid, I would have to go out again for individual bids,
Sure.
and the cost may end up coming in higher, I don't know.
So the experience and past performance is what kind of perhaps helps sway the group towards Ameresco?
Yeah, I mean, this is what they do, and they're good at what they do. Their proposal was very well presented. I just feel the finished product with them, we're going to be happy with. What they're going to do is give us a 20-year projection on our needs for capital fund purposes, asset management, things we should be looking at down the road. And there's going to be years where we'll have higher expenses and lower expenses, just looking at the usable life of what we've got and when things are going to need to be replaced. So it's going to be a very useful tool for planning, to see if there's going to be a high ticket item coming in 3 years. Maybe we save up our capital grant, for a couple years in anticipation of that high ticket item, like a roof or that kind of thing. So.
Any comments?
Well, basically, I mean, if we get another bid, the 2 that were less expensive are probably going to be doubled because of the efficiencies, so we're not going to save any money by.
Yeah,
I mean, if the bid process, we have significant savings. If you take the other 2 low ones and double it, similar to what the Ameresco one was, if we did it alone. By choosing to go with a group, we kind of have to stay with the group. That was the purpose of it, I suppose.
and I feel like we'll get a better finished product. So.
Anybody else? Any comments or questions? would we be in any problem if we selected them rather than legally, rather than the others? We wouldn't be, okay. Okay. You know, what does Ameresco stand for? American Rescue Company? I don't know. Oh,
It's a
okay.
different name.
If everybody is satisfied to, then move the motion.
I'd make a motion to award the proposal for the green physical needs assessment in the amount of $13,370 to Ameresco.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and second awarding the proposal for the green physical needs assessment in the amount of $13,370 to Ameresco. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Item 4C is a motion authorizing payment of public housing claims. Any questions or comments regarding that $27,637.04? Heather, you have any comments or anything relative to that?
The only comment there is under Menards, the $1,693.10, the capital funds 2013. That's for the electrical upgrade project we have coming. We purchased the materials on our own to avoid paying the markup to the contractor. And then the electrician, it's basically a labor-only bid then to install them, so.
Questions, comments? The motion? To move it?
I will make the motion to authorize payment of the public housing program claims for August 19th, 2014.
And a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and second authorizing payment of the public housing program claims for August 19th, 2014, and order filed. Any comments or questions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The motion is carried. Item 5A, receive the report from the Brown County Auditor's Office regarding an error in coding personal property. Heather. Oh, City Manager, Mr. Gromans.
Heather can do it if she wants.
No, let's go with you.
All right. Received a call from Jeannie Prochnick from Brown County, and she proceeded to inform me that there were 3 parcels of land that are found in Milford Township that had been assigned to the city of New Ulm, one for 3 years and and the other 2 for 2 years. Brown County feels a need to correct that taxing situation, which means our tax levy went against those parcels when the township's levy should have went against those parcels. Ours is much higher, therefore the property owners paid too much tax. They will receive a refund, and that refund will come out of our tax settlement here in October. November, when we get the second half of the taxes paid. When we receive that, they'll subtract that out of that.
Okay.
So we don't have to actually pay a check to the county to get this thing going. They'll just subtract it out. The EDA's share is a little over $2,000, and we're just not going to receive it. To equal and balance the city and the township taxes out. What I'm proposing to the city council is that, rather than re-levy it in next year's levy, which puts a pretty heavy burden on already a heavy burden tax levy, that, just assume that we'll utilize reserves to cover this.
So was that 2,000?
We could, if we wanted to, re-levy, because it is a taxing error. But I can tell you right now, we're kind of fighting hard
Oh, yes.
to keep the levy within a reasonable increase the way it is. So, from my recommendation to the board is that receive the report, and then we'll just utilize reserves to fund the hole. It's not a huge hole, but for the EDA, $2,000 is
$2,100, yes, yeah.
it's large enough. The city side runs around $100-some thousand,
Yeah.
so that's a little bit
Bigger.
larger.
Yeah.
Is this personal property, tax or real estate?
Yes, yes.
It is personal property.
The, what Brown County calls NSP, which is now Excel, they've got a substation, and that is considered personal property. And also the lands were rented out that were in error, and that again turned into a personal property tax. And it got found when the city contacted the county to do the calculation for when the two parcels get brought into the city. I mean, we're gonna annex them in.
Right.
And so the calculations were requested, so we can determine what the payment is to Milford Township.
Yeah.
And as soon as that request went in, they started comparing the numbers and said, hey, wait a minute. Then they went back and found the NSP one. So they do have a process in place now that's supposed to catch assigned
Sure.
personal property. Yeah, because if it was just regular real estate property, it has a
Yeah.
tax ID number, and you're not going to mess with that. But
Yeah.
personal property is one of those
Yes.
items that could get misplaced.
Mhm.
So that's the story. I'll be reiterating this to the city council tonight, but I think we'll utilize reserves to fund the shortfall.
Okay, you heard the explanation and reasoning behind it. We are now ready to accept the motion in second. And we're going to offer that.
I'll make a motion to receive the report and authorize the payment of $2,092.39 to Brown County by reducing our 2014 second half tax settlement payment to the New Ulm EDA to remedy the tax coding and tax levy error.
A second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to modify this report. To receive the report and authorize payment of $2,092.39 to Brown County by reducing the 2014 half-tax settlement payment, second half-tax payment to the New Ulm EDA to remedy the tax coding and tax levy error. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Item 5B, how to utilize the proceeds from the sale of 2 EDA lots. Heather?
All right. I don't know if we necessarily would have had to bring this up for an action, but I guess I felt like when the board decided to put these lots up for sale, we talked about what we could do with the proceeds. So now that the sale has happened, I guess we can have that discussion. One of the things we could do with the proceeds of the sale of these lots is to use it towards the next interfund loan to the TIF fund, or we could use the proceeds to make a payment toward the interfund loan to the city of New Ulm, or we could leave the proceeds in the EDA fund to offset a couple unforeseen expenses we had during the current budget year. Just noticing, I think there's some text in here that doesn't necessarily belong in the overview. The EDA owned 2 lots located at 1548 and 1550 Lee Avenue. The parcel was made available to the EDA in 2007 by the City Council to be used for construction of affordable single-family homes. After a few bidding processes, the bids were rejected. We never built any houses on the property and shifted our focus to the Milford Heights subdivision. So the EDA decided to go ahead and sell the property rather than hold on to it. So I did go back and review the reasons given back in 2011 when the board decided to sell the lots, and in reviewing the notes from that meeting, these were some of the suggestions that have come up. We've been making interfund loans to make the TIF payments, and also we have an interfund loan to the city that's close to $300,000, and the EDA has made no payments toward that debt to date. The proceeds from the sale of the 2 lots are just over $29,500. couple of the unforeseen expenses that we had this year, the EDA recently honored a purchase agreement on a lot sale in Milford Heights, where $7,500 of down payment assistance was approved, and then we lost our funding source, so the EDA basically paid for that $7,500 out of the reserve fund. And as we just discussed, we're losing another just about $2,100 in tax levy revenue due to the tax error made by the Brown County Auditor's Office. The total of these two items is approximately $9,600, so you may want to factor that into any decision made on this agenda item.
Okay.
Yeah, the original property was given by the city to the EDA at no cost. It was a remnant parcel from the park that was up there when the county road cut through. Left two pieces of dirt on the opposite side of the road.
Yeah.
And I guess in that context, you know, it was free to us, so it's total revenue with, other than some grass mowing and a couple other expenses that have gone against it
Yeah.
in the past.
What is the staff looking to, of the three, do they have a favorite at this time?
My recommendation, I guess, is well, let me explain. My recommendation would be, I think, to put something against the interfund loan to the city. That was free land to us.
Yeah.
The city could have kept it and sold it on their own and kept that money, and they didn't. They tried to help us out. The down payment assistance, that we had put in there, I mean, that's what we do. And as far as the tax levy, again, the city's getting wrapped for
Yeah.
over $100,000 worth of error. So to me,
The interfund.
it's not a huge amount of money, but it would be approximately 10% of what the EDA owes to the city, just for the raw land that we acquired in the Milford subdivision. I mean, that'd be my recommendation, but maybe Heather, you've
And-
got.
Reg and I discussed, and I think that's what you were leaning toward too, weren't you?
Is three,
That would be item 2 then.
item 2?
Make a payment toward the interfund loan to the city of
Fund
New
loan,
Ulm.
yeah. Okay, that seems to be the consensus. With that in mind, we should make the motion utilizing number 2 then. Or would it just be broader by using all three?
No, just specifically
Specifically
identify
number
that you
2,
want.
okay.
I'd make the motion to use the proceeds of the sale of the lots to make a payment toward the interfund loan to the city of New Ulm.
A second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved, seconding, authorizing staff to use the proceeds to make a payment toward the interfund loan to the city of New Ulm. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. The last item is from Mr. Toal, the Economic Development Coordinator, and taking a look at his report. He's been doing things that keeps busy. Any questions or comments about it? If not, a motion to accept his report would be in order.
I'll make a motion to accept his report.
A second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and second accepting New Ulm Economic Development Corporation Coordinator's report regarding activities during the month of July 2014. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The motion is carried. Is there any other business that should come before the commission at this time? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned at 8:03.